Now that summer is here, camping on the ground without a modern, bug-proof tent is risky, especially in hot areas like Texas. There are many nasty creatures on the ground, like snakes and scorpions and biting insects that tend to crawl into your sleeping area. Even if you use natural repellents, or even if you use smoke. In the 1800s, if you camped on the ground, you tried to find places that were higher than the rest of the elevation. You tried to find areas that didn't have vegetation, areas that the creepy crawlers wouldn't want to be. Only rugged young men camped this way in the 1800s, and even then, the recommendation was to build a platform to sleep on, and maybe put smoke under it. Or, if you had a permanent camp, to use a hammock. A hammock is a sling made of fabric, rope, or netting, and it's suspended between 2 points, and it's used for swinging, sleeping, or resting. Hammocks were developed by the native inhabitants of Central and South America for sleeping. They were popular in Central and South America because of their ability to provide safety from disease transmission, insect stings, and animal bites. Spanish colonists noted the use of hammocks by Native Americans and adapted them for use on sailing ships. Over the years, interest in hammocks expanded. Everyone wanted hammocks for the house, lawn, porch, and campsite. One interesting design is the White Mountain hammock chair. It's convertible. It can be a chair or a bed. A fascinating invention. But it was heavy and bulky, like most of the hammocks at that time, not really suitable for use for rugged hiking and camping activities. This changed in 1872 when Francis Galton described what he called an ingenious invention, an invention that made it easy to hang hammocks without any trees or posts. The idea eventually led to the modern hammock that we have today. And you see behind me a hammock that I've made with a bed sheet, some cordage, and some stakes, the way Francis Galton described to make a hammock. Let's see how it works. Well, you can't hold a hammock with an ordinary tent pole. It'll wobble. And so the invention was really very simple. It just was the idea of using 3 poles that are in the ground. First one that you pound in at an angle, and then 2 tent pegs that are guy wires. And that then serves as one side of the hammock. I have an ordinary bed sheet here, and I folded it the long way into about 4 or 5 inch strips, and I'm going to turn this bed sheet into a hammock with this loop of cordage. And the way you do that is you fold it over, fold the end over, fold the loop through it this way, and then underneath the other end, and pull the rest of the loop through. If you tighten it up, this will become very secure, and it'll make one end of the hammock. And you do the same for the other end, and then connect it. I've got a link that shows you the details on how to make that. So if you want to make this sort of hammock out of a bed sheet, check out the link that's listed up above and then also in the narrative below. Connected at each end to some cordage. And these are connected to stakes into the ground with a tripod at each end. It makes a very nice, comfortable hammock. And then for mosquito protection, I put a mosquito cloth above it, hanging on a ridge line. This is from Walmart. I bought 2 1/4 yards. It's connected by a rock to the top with cordage and a Persic knot. And that way I can move the mosquito netting back and forth across the top to protect me. If it rains tonight, I can easily put a tarp on top of the ridge line. I don't think it's going to rain. I think it's going to be really comfortable. And until the mosquitoes get bad, I'm just going to keep the netting pulled back. Pretty sweet. Persic knot, and then rock. This way I don't have to put any holes in the netting to attach it to the ridge line. Works really well. For dinner, I'm going to have ham, potatoes, and onions. A ham like this can keep several days on the trail, and it was used a lot in the 1800s because it lasted a long time. And then because it's summer, we have fresh corn, so I'll just roast those directly over the fire, and they'll only take a few minutes directly over the fire. If you haven't tried cooking corn this way, just directly putting it over the coals, you'll find that it's a little different, but see, it's really good inside. It's so tasty. It's so sweet and so good. Bon appetit. It's getting late, so I'm getting ready for bed. I've got all my clothes hanging up here on this one pole. I've got the haversack up high, and then my other stuff right underneath it. It's going to be in my head end so that I can easily get to it during the night if I need to. Put my shirt up high too. I'm taking my boots off. I'm going to put it on top of my wool blanket, but I'll remember to shake out my boots and my clothing in the morning just to make sure there aren't any creepy crawlers in there. They sometimes can find their way in, and that's not too pleasant. Okay. Yeah, I should take a few more clothes off, but it's warm. Well, let's get this ready. Let's see how this works. Sweet dreams. Good morning. I had a good night. Oh, the sunrise is going to be fantastic. I'm just going to stay here for a while. It's time to get up, I guess. First thing I do is I shake out my boots. You never know what could have crawled in during the night. That one doesn't look like it has anything in it. That's good. And the other one, yep, that's good too. Well, I'm going to put my boots on. Got one on. And now, let's see, let's get the other one on. Ah, what a life. You ought to try hammock camping like this sometime. I'm really impressed. It's just as comfortable, if not more comfortable, than my commercial backpack hammock. For breakfast, I'm going to make oatmeal and poached eggs. Now you may be wondering how the pioneers kept eggs fresh without refrigeration. Well, the first thing they did is that they didn't wash the eggs. Eggs naturally have a bloom on them that's a protein coat that keeps them fresh. Second, they would pack them in dried salt or a brine solution, or sometimes they would use bacon grease, anything to keep the pores of the eggs sealed so that air wouldn't get in and so the eggs wouldn't spoil. And I've used mineral oil on these eggs. Mineral oil works very well and doesn't go rancid. And you can keep eggs a long time without refrigeration just by coating them in mineral oil. So I'm going to have poached eggs, oatmeal, and then to drink a little Yaupon tea. And as I've described in other episodes, Yaupon is a plant that produces both, in its leaves, both caffeine and antioxidants. And the tea tastes somewhat like green tea. It's really excellent. The oatmeal is ready. That's good. The eggs look ready. I use a stick to stabilize it. This is a good trick so you don't lose your food. And then the tea is just about ready too. I really like oatmeal cooked over a fire like this. I use the old-fashioned regular oatmeal, and it's so much better. Home at last. I'm glad the hammock's still standing. Works out pretty well. It's been a fun day. In the bushes next to my hammock, there have been some birds going back and forth. And if you look carefully, you'll see a little nest. And there's some babies inside. If we're lucky, maybe I can capture the parent birds going in and out of the nest. The hammock's held up pretty well. That there hasn't been too much stretch, a little bit of stretch. I'm not tightening it on purpose because I want to see how much it does stretch. But it seems to be working very nicely. With just a few modifications, it'll be better than my commercial hammock. Okay, I'm going to put the candle out. And I keep everything right here under the head end of the hammock. Sit down first. Take my shoes off. And I have new socks here. So I'm fresh and clean underneath. Again, it's warm tonight, and so I'm not going to use any blankets or anything. I'm just going to put the mosquito netting over me. I've got clean clothes on underneath, and that's all that I'll use to stay warm. This should be just fine. And so this will keep the creepy crawlers off me like it did last night. And I'll see you in the morning. I'm watching what's left of the sunset. It's really pretty. Good morning. It was nice last night. It was a little breezier than the first night. The sun's about ready to come up. Oh, here, let me show it to you. Just a second. It's always interesting how every day is a little different. It's mornings like this that I sort of think it'd be fun to sleep out like this every night. Bon appetit. Yopon tea. Oatmeal. And a hard-boiled egg.